Get out, you're replaceable. Can you imagine hearing that? Those 4 words, they're what kicked this whole thing off. They're the words that took a loyal employee and, well, turned him into something his boss never, ever saw coming.
Yeah, that one single sentence set off this whole chain reaction. A story of betrayal, sure, but also incredible strategy and, let's be honest, some seriously satisfying revenge. This is the story of how the quietest person in the room ended up owning the entire building.
So let's set the scene. For 5 whole years, our guy was just the quiet IT guy. You know the type. Head down, working like crazy behind the scenes for his arrogant boss, a guy named Nikola. And then, bam, one random Monday morning. No heads up, no explanation. It was just over. And look, we're not just talking about fixing printers here. This guy was the unseen engine of the company. He was the one smoothing things over with clients Nikola had ticked off. He was cleaning up all the technical disasters his boss just ignored. He was basically the glue holding the entire operation together, the foundation. And for all that, he was treated like he was completely disposable.
So of course, he asks the one simple question anyone would, why? And Nikola's response, I don't owe you an explanation. Get out. Just like that, cold as ice. 5 years of dedication, just erased, wiped away with one incredibly disrespectful command. But here's where the story takes a turn you might not expect. That night, he didn't wallow in despair. He didn't cry or feel sorry for himself. Nope. The shock, it turned into something else. A kind of cold, calculated, razor-sharp focus. He didn't sleep. He made a list.
So what was Nikola's big, fatal mistake here? It's actually pretty simple. He completely misunderstood who held the real power. He looked around at his expensive office, sat in his big leather chair, and thought, this is my business. But he was dead wrong. The company's real asset was the guy he just showed the door. You see, Nikola just didn't get it. He had no clue about the true scope of this guy's influence. He wasn't some cog in the machine. He was the machine. Every single contract, every support ticket, every sale, it all passed right through his hands. He controlled the relationships that were the absolute lifeblood of the business. And this really gets to the heart of the difference between them. Nikola's approach was purely about the transaction. Send a massive invoice for a simple reboot. But our guy, his approach was all about the relationship. He'd fix a problem in an hour, no charge, because he knew it built loyalty. He talked to clients like actual human beings, not just numbers on a spreadsheet. He created value. Nikola just sent invoices.
And you know what? He wasn't the only one who knew his value. The clients saw it, crystal clear. One of them actually asked him, straight up, why don't you run this company? Now that's not just some casual question, is it? That's a huge sign that the company's real asset wasn't the man whose name was on the door.
So, yeah, it did not take long for the first cracks to appear. Just 2 weeks. 2 weeks after being fired, with that sting of betrayal still fresh, the silent architect began to dismantle the very house he had built. And the plan that he came up with was, well, it was devastating in its simplicity. No sabotage, no secrets, no corporate espionage. He just founded his own company. And then he called the 5 largest clients. His greatest weapon wasn't some dirty trick, it was the truth. And the clients, they fled. Why? Because they were sick and tired of being overcharged, neglected, and disrespected. For instance, one client got charged 2,000 euros for what our narrator knew is just a simple router restart. They jumped at the chance to work with someone they could finally trust. So as his biggest client started vanishing, Nikola, well, he panicked. The phone call started. First, it was a pathetic, lowball offer to come back. When that didn't work, he moved on to threats of lawsuits. And finally, when all else failed, he just begged. And what was our narrator's response to all these desperate pleas? He just calmly repeated the exact same words Nikola had thrown at him just a few weeks earlier. The power dynamic hadn't just been shifted, it had been completely and totally reversed. Now, this wasn't just a minor setback for Nikola. This was the beginning of a total systemic collapse. The company wasn't just losing clients, it was losing its entire reason to exist. The speed of the implosion was just staggering. It started with that one major client. By the second month, all 5 of his largest accounts were gone. Within 4 months, 70% of his revenue had just vanished. And by the 6-month mark, the end was inevitable. The result was a catastrophic 70% drop in revenue. It turns out Nikola hadn't really built a company. He had built a house of cards, and the one person holding it all together had just walked away.
With no revenue, you can't make payroll. The last few talented employees he had left for better opportunities. In the end, Nikola was completely alone, just sitting in his leather chair in a totally empty office.
Nikola tried to sell the company, of course, but who would buy a business with no clients, no staff, and a mountain of debt? Just when all hope seemed lost, he got an offer from a very unexpected buyer.
The offer was for just 20% of the company's original value. It was a brutal lowball offer, but it was in cash and it was the only lifeline he had left. The buyer, of course, was his former IT guy. The story goes that Nikola actually wept as he signed the papers, handing over the keys to the empire he had built and then destroyed. Our narrator? He felt no pity. He didn't even feel triumph. He just felt that the scales had finally been balanced. He felt justice. I mean, it was the ultimate reversal of fortune. The arrogant CEO who once sat in that leather chair, he now drives for a ride-sharing app. And the man he called replaceable, he's the one who sits in that very chair now, running the company he bought. So what's the final lesson from this incredible corporate saga? What does true revenge actually look like? It shows that maybe true revenge isn't about tearing someone down. It's about building yourself up so high that their actions just don't have power over you anymore. It's about becoming the success story they were too arrogant to see right in front of them. So the real question isn't how you get revenge. It's what you do with the power you've had all along.